Making this video on the 23rd of the 5th, 2025. I seen a report done by the MMA fighter reporter guy, and he highlighted this article by the journal, the RAG, the journal. And it's titled, Gardaí have found foreign actors using social media to amplify far-right content in Ireland. Right? Garda Deputy Commissioner Shauna Coxon was speaking this week at a conference on policing of far-right intimidation in the Republic of Ireland. Gardaí and PSNI investigations into far-right incitement at protests and riots have shown agitators from outside Ireland involved in amplifying and directing demonstrations across the island. Deputy Commissioner Shauna Coxon has confirmed the Gardaí had evidence for actors outside of Ireland stoking up disinformation rhetoric to push far-right protests to take place, while Murray said they had evidence of people in the UK publishing inciting social media posts. Coxon and Chief Superintendent Stephen Murray of the PSNI were speaking this week at a conference on policing far-right intimidation in the Republic of Ireland. The event in Dublin was organised by the Irish Council of Civil Liberties and was examining experiences in Ireland, the North and globally. Both police officers said the amplification of misinformation and disinformation, there's them two words again, by people aligned for far-right ideologies was a difficult task to confront for police forces across Ireland. Coxon said, everyone knows it is coming from both. Often the amplification process is from outside of the state, but it is not that there are not actors within the state doing the same. You are talking about huge numbers. They are key examples here where you can see this happening inside the state. Murray explained that how anonymous posts are published on channels and on social media messaging services, and that these then spread across WhatsApp groups designed to stoke anger among susceptible people. So now if you're out there and you're paying attention to what's happening, these are being sent to WhatsApp groups and you're susceptible. So that's the way they're putting it across. Or they're messages that are being sent out into these WhatsApp groups, and these WhatsApp groups are full of these susceptible people who don't look into facts of anything before they make a decision on anything. That's basically what they're saying there. Murray said that the message was only part of the issue. Trying to deal with the amplification was a real challenge. You can get an anonymous post and then you get people amplifying it, engaging with it, and then just spreading it on WhatsApp. Then it becomes the norm. It is a deliberate ploy on our streets on both sides of the border, and it is really challenging to deal with, he said. Misinformation notices. Murray cited the Garda's recent use of misinformation notices, a new measure by the force that highlights when misinformation is circling on social media. The most recent notice came when voice notes spread on WhatsApp media regarding the death of Garda Kevin Flatley. Now, I'll throw me 2 cents in on that particular issue. So about 3-4 hours before the incident occurred with Kevin Flatley, like, God rest his soul and all, R.I.P. And death is never a nice thing. We all know that. We're all human beings. But the messages were saying that be careful, right? There was women and men notifying other people they knew in their area. Be careful when you go past this Garda checkpoint, because there's a guard that's going out in the middle of the road and he's like a madman. He's walking out in front of cars and trying to stop them, forcefully stop them. So they were warning people, just be careful at this checkpoint because there's a guard who looks like he's lost the plot. That's the messages that were going around. See, they're trying to get ahead of it here. They're trying to say, no, all of them are just made up. They're all lies. They're not true. Okay. The Garda notices call out misinformation and present an accurate narrative. The response is shared across Garda social media accounts and also sent to newsrooms in press releases. Coxon explained that this is a new strategy and that other police forces are looking to use the Garda model. She used the example of misinformation during the Dublin riots that the army had been called in as not being true. Well, I did see some army personnel out there, so I don't know what she's talking about. The Deputy Commissioner said the Garda monitor the far right to a certain degree. To a certain degree, huh? Nobody can be everywhere at all time. You know this yourself, but certainly your obligation is to be proportionate in a response, to deal with the information that we have found in front of us and not to move forward on conjecture. And we want our response, of course, to be appropriate, engaging, supportive. We want to be professional, flexible in how we deal with things, and impartial, she said. The Deputy Commissioner said that there were fewer than 650 protests last year. 650. And I'd say there was probably more, because they don't even highlight most of them. And we call them peaceful assemblies, which were for the most part anti-migrant and far-right protests, but which also included demonstrations against the war in Gaza. Now, do you notice as well, they don't even mention the ones that Rise Up, what is it? Rise Up IRA, or IRA Rise Up, where they're out there constantly in different counties handing out leaflets about the Great Jabberwocky. You know what I'm talking about. They don't even mention that. I wonder why. Coxon had said the use of misinformation around migrants during the anti-immigrant protests, particularly false allegations about how migrants and asylum seekers treat women and children, has become a complicating factor for Gardaí. She said the organisation of far-right protests and counter-demonstrations at the same time are proving a challenge for the Garda. Well, not really, because see them counter-demonstrations, the counter-demonstrations is the government. It's political parties within the government. It's People Before Profit. It's Sinn Féin. You don't see representatives from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael at them, but I can guarantee you they're egging them on. They're the ones getting behind the other ones and pushing them out. Go out and demonstrate against these people. Go out and demonstrate against the natives. The proliferation of social media and the abilities for individuals to move easily across the country, and I would argue also from the outside of Ireland. Just give us one. She said the organisations for the far-right protests and counter-demonstrations at the same time is proving a challenge. Yeah, I'm sure it is. The proliferation of social media and the abilities for individuals to move easily across the country, and I would argue also from outside of Ireland, we've absolutely had that, and that's really changed the nature of the protest landscape. It means that protests quickly gain momentum. They can change location quickly, and our ability to mobilise and respond has had to change, she added. Coxon said, well, I'll go back to the counter protesters. How is it that the Gardaí are able to be and shield the counter protesters? They're there, they're around them. They set up fences around them and protect them. They protect the counter protesters. Does no one find that a bit weird? Yet she's saying it's hard for them to mobilise. Not by looking at the way the counter protesters are set up, you wouldn't believe that. That seems like a lie there, Miss Coxon. Coxon said the Gardaí are monitoring violent political extremism and said that the threat level is currently set at substantial. You see how these things spread, and certainly the spreading of misinformation has directly led to a verbal and physical assault of Gardaí in various situations, she added. Anytime I've seen the Gardaí turn up, they're the ones committing the crimes. They're the ones pepper spraying children and beating up old people. So give me a fucking break. Joe O'Brien, the former Green Party junior minister and now executive director of the ICCL, said his group were holding the conference to help Garda. So now not only are the Green Party out there trying to brainwash people into believing, how do I say that now without YouTube putting a wiki page down below to explain it. You know how everything's going to get really hot, you know, that way. Now they're setting up meetings for the Garda to propagate about misinformation and disinformation. O'Brien said that he suffered far-right intimidation himself when he was in political life, and that this informed his understanding of how the activists can pull in communities. He said that there is a need to inoculate communities from far-right rhetoric. He wants to inoculate communities from rhetoric, but said he did not support government moves to ban face masks and protests outside politicians' homes. Interesting. And considering I did see maybe 2 or 3 outside Green Party member homes, this former Green Party member, doesn't seem to have an issue with it. See the mixed messages again. The mixed messages all over the shop, aren't they? I understand perhaps why they might have put in as something to do, but that's crossing a line in terms of freedom of protest, I think, and we should not be for it. It's a sort of fundamental freedom. Intimidation is a different thing, and that's a different line, I suppose, is my point, he said. Okay. He said a key way to achieve the inoculation is by giving communities the right information. The right information wasn't always coming to the people as well, you know. So I think that's key as well. He must have been literally typing as what he was saying. And building those links, I suppose, at a community level, work level, but the connections within the community guard as well, he added. So this is the one done by Niall O'Connor. You're right, it's terrible, Niall. So I looked into this Coxon one. This write-up was done back in 2021 by Conor Lally. A few of you know who Conor Lally is. Garda's new Canadian policing star is a progressive reformer. Former Toronto Deputy Chief Shauna Coxon faces step up to Garda's second in command. So she was brought in from Canada, plopped straight in as second in command in Garda Síochána. I'm going to read a little bit of this because I found this part here quite interesting. Shauna Coxon departs Toronto Police Services for the second most senior job in Garda Síochána, having been tipped to take the top job in the Canadian force, only for recent management changes to work against her, sources say. A number of people familiar with her policing career in Canada said she is regarded as a very progressive and professional officer who has long been considered a policing star. So she's like celebrity type, the word he uses there, a policing star. Now, do you really need your police and Garda to be stars? Like, no, just stop crime. That's all you're there for. You're only there to stop crime. You're not there to be a star, you know? Now listen to this. He has it in quotes. You certainly won't find any dirt on Shauna Coxon because there's none. Absolutely none at all. She's just not that kind of person, says one source. The man how they could just throw it in there. Says one source. That might be misinformation, I think. I think that's misinformation, Conor Lally. What source? You know? That always gets thrown at us. When we want to talk about something. Source! Where's your source? These guys can just say, says one source. He can quote someone by saying, you certainly won't find any dirt on her, on this Miss Coxon one, because there's none. Absolutely nothing at all. She's just not that kind of person. Like crazy. Now, there was one other piece. The guy who's above this yoke is Drew Harris, right? And when I was in looking at Drew Harris, his father came up, and I found this. Like this is just a side note, right? But yeah, he was the Royal Ulster Constabulary Superintendent who was killed by the Provisional IRA on October 1989, right? But listen, look at this part here. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you can. Can I? Oh, look at that. You can still edit this one. But correct me if I'm wrong. If it's wrong here. I just found this number interesting. Look. Superintendent Harris was killed by an IRA bomb and that exploded under his car while him and his wife were on his way to church. On their way to church. At the time of death, he was subdivisional commander of Newcastle County Down, but due to serious heart condition, was on extended sick leave. His wife survived the bomb, and she survived with minor injuries. Harris had been in the RUC for 33 years, exactly on the day of his death. Why does that number keep coming up, man? It's just like because we're at a stage now. There's no such thing as coincidences, and this number just keeps coming up. You know, like as if it's like some sort of ritualistic number. Do you know that way? But isn't it interesting that Drew Harris's dad had been in the RUC for 33 years, exactly on the day of his death? So yeah, but the whole point of it was this one here. They're what they're trying to do is they're trying to drill it into the sheep, the NPCs, that it's outside actors are amplifying the far right content in Ireland. I never see any reports done on these people like who's that Jamaican fella? Cannon. I never see any reports done on him talking about he's on social media platforms talking about how he wants the non-nationals to harm Irish citizens, to take Irish women and start breeding with them. Is that not amplifying something? That's amplifying hatred. Yeah, you never see any write-ups about these individuals, huh? So yeah, just I'm gonna turn into like reading these news articles and just pointing out the bleeding insanity of them.